Hi friends, my name is Sai and welcome back to the episode 2 of the mini series that I've been doing, Intensive Gardening in Summers. And today I'm going to be discussing more on compost tea, how to prepare it, how it works and why it works. So, we've been doing gardening for the past 6 years, and for the past 4 years where we have been actively teaching people how to set up their garden, we have been telling about compost tea. Now, I was introduced to the concept of compost tea by Dwarkanath Gnaneshwar, more popularly known as DJ, and once I saw how beautifully it works, I was really sold to the concept. I loved that compost tea is really easy to make and it works beautifully. Now, I started doing a bit of research as to how a compost tea actually works, as in what is the science behind compost tea. And on the internet, I didn't find many resources. Yeah, there were those general gardening blogs and stuff where how a compost tea is being prepared, and that a compost tea is a fertilizer and all that. All those things were mentioned, but nobody was actually talking of how a compost tea works. Rather, it was shocking to find out that some of the credible and trustworthy sources that we find on the internet, they were saying that aerated compost teas actually do not work. So they were saying that any gardener who feels that aerated compost tea is working was in essence imagining it to be working, and that it didn't have much of an effect. So I had to search further onto the internet to get more information on how a compost tea works, and I came across a person called Dr. Elaine Ingham, who was talking about compost teas and soil science and plant nutrition and all that. Now, Dr. Elaine Ingham is highly respected in the permaculture circles. Bill Mollison, the co-founder of permaculture, also refers to her when he's teaching about soils. So, I found out that Dr. Elaine Ingham is a major proponent of aerated compost teas. She had an online course going on at that point of time. I joined into that, and little did I know that 2015 is going to be the International Year of Soils. So that was another pleasant surprise that I got. Now, what I'm going to be telling you today about compost tea is essentially what I have learned from her. So, before I go into the concept of compost tea, there are two things that you need to know. The first is plant nutrition. Now, many fertilizer companies, or rather all fertilizer companies would have you believe that plants would take in any kind of compound which is given in an inorganic way, and that you could actually give nutrients to plants in inorganic ways. That is, you could have a compound made of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, make a salt out of it, put it into water, spray it on the land, and the plants are going to lap it up. There's just a small problem with that. That is that plants are going to take the nutrients which you are going to give through fertilizer, and that is because plants are hydrological beings. That is, if anything is mixed with water, they are forced to take it. But that's not their preferred form of taking in nutrition. It turns out that plants would actually prefer taking nutrition from the biology which is there in the soil. Now, what do we mean by biology? We mean life, right? So, if there is good life in your soil, plants are actually going to prefer taking nutrients from that life. So, compost tea is one of the ways by which we are able to increase the life that is there in the soil. So, plant nutrition requires better soil biology. Biology means life, and life is what we need to provide to the soil. The second thing is that there are two ways in which these microorganisms, that beneficial bacteria and fungi, can be grown. One is you grow them in the presence of oxygen. That is what we call as aerobic. Or you could do it in the absence of oxygen, which is called anaerobic. Now, whenever you have any kind of decomposition which is happening in anaerobic way, you would be finding that disturbing smell. So you're going outside and you find some kind of a septic or sewage waste, and you understand the kind of smell which is coming, that kind of a yucky smell which you can't tolerate it. Now that is what happens when you are having anaerobic decomposition. Plants usually would be preferring to have those microorganisms which are aerobic, that is, which grow in the presence of oxygen. On the other hand, if you are actually giving them anaerobic microorganisms, if you are creating anaerobic conditions in the soil, you are actually favoring for plant pathogens, and you are creating conditions in which a plant is susceptible to many diseases. So, one thing that you need to understand is plant nutrition. The second is that we are favoring for aerated or aerobic microorganisms. So in a compost tea, what are we doing? We are actually increasing the microbial count, the beneficial bacteria and the fungi, by providing it lots and lots of oxygen. So how does compost tea work? Well, you are able to increase the plant nutrition by increasing the soil life which is there, and specifically the one which you get in the presence of oxygen. So let's see how you can make your own aerated compost tea. To increase the microbial count, you would be requiring a source which contains all those microorganisms, right? So I have with me a bit of vermicompost. You could alternately create your own vermicompost. You could buy it from the market. How to create your own vermicompost? Well, I suggest you check out the video made by Dwarkanath Gnaneshwar. That is one good way in which you could create your own vermicompost in your home. The second thing would be to create your own 18-day hot compost. I would not suggest any other way. So either you have your homemade vermicompost or the one which you buy from outside, or you simply make your own 18-day hot compost. Now, with this, what I start doing is that I have a socks here, and I'm going to start filling it up with this vermicompost. The point is not to overfill the socks with vermicompost, because the point is that we are just trying to take the microbial, the beneficial fungi and bacteria which are there in this soil. Okay, so I have put in about 4 handfuls of vermicompost. You could put a bit more if you would want it. And now just tie it up so that it doesn't come out. Now the second thing is that I have a container which is full of water. This would be taking in about 20 liters of water. What I also have is your regular aquarium bubbler. This is how it is sold in any aquarium shop. So you can get this. Now this is what we locally call as a double bubbler. Why we call it a double bubbler is that it has bubbling action which can be brought from these two ends. So you have even those bubblers which have only one end. The price difference between these two is not that much. So I would suggest you buy something like this. This should not be costing you more than 200, 250, even if you're buying a single piece. Of course, if you're buying 10, 15, you can appropriately bargain. Now, I have this. Then I have a plastic pipe which is actually going to get connected to these ends. And I also have these stones. So when you are going to the market, you need to buy the aquarium bubbler, the pipes and these stones, right? Once you have connected it, it will be looking somewhat like this. So I have this connected to this end, and I have the stones which are connected to the other end. Now what I do is, I take this, put it into the water. It will just come over. So as you can see, I have put this into the water. I connect the power supply, and can you see these bubbles coming up? Now this is because you are having the air actually pumped into it, and in that process you are also pumping in oxygen. Now I have this socks with me which has the vermicompost. Now let me just drop this inside, and when I am doing this, let me just squeeze it a bit. You could drop the socks into the container, or you could actually tie it with a small rope so that it doesn't go all the way down, and connect it to the handle of this container. Right now I'm just going to allow it to drop. Now, as food for the microorganisms which are there in the compost, I'm going to use a bit of flour and a bit of jaggery. And when I mean a bit, I really mean just a small bit. Right. So that's it. And I'm just going to ensure that it doesn't form a lump. Right? Can you see that the difference in the bubbles is coming? So you have bigger bubbles which are actually going there. Now this is not the action that you get when you are just doing only aeration. Now because life has been introduced into this soil, into this water, and I have started giving it food, you will start seeing these kind of bubbles coming towards the end of it. So there are a couple of pointers that are there when you are setting up your compost tea. The first thing, the water that you are getting, if you are using the water which your municipality is providing, then definitely it has chlorine introduced into it as a disinfectant. Now you need to get rid of that chlorine, and the easiest way to do that is to put your water into the sun for a couple of hours before you even start putting in your socks and start doing the aeration. So before you do that, just put it out in the sun for a couple of hours, and that is going to take care of the chlorine. The second thing is, you need to allow this setup to sit for at least 48 hours before you can start using it as compost tea. The reason is that you want to be really sure that you've got rid of your anaerobic microorganisms, and that's why you want it to sit for 48 hours. Now what happens if you have a power cut? Let's say you have a power cut after 36 hours or so. Now I would suggest that you wait for another 24 hours, that is, you do the aeration for another 24 hours before you can actually use the compost tea. The third point is, compost tea can be used directly onto the plants and it won't burn them, or you could dilute it 1:10. So no issues with either one of them. You could dilute it or use it directly. It is not going to burn your plants. Compost tea simply does not smell. I have it right in front of me. I can keep it in my bedroom and I wouldn't even notice that it is there, apart from the sound that the aquarium bubbler is doing. I wouldn't even know that it is there because it simply does not smell. Remember that if there is a smell, that means that there is anaerobic decomposition happening, and that means there is something wrong with your whole setup. Usually you will not have that problem if you have introduced your bubbler, right? So you are always favoring for the aerobic microorganisms. Now after you have used your compost tea, let's say the first time you are using your compost tea and you use, let's say, 10 liters out of the 20 liters that you have created. What do you do next? You could put back 10 liters of water and wait for another 24 hours and start reusing it. So it is not as if that this is just one shot. You have this whole setup running through and through, and you just keep on adding water to whatever is remaining inside your container. Let it sit for about 24 hours and then you can start using it onto your plants. Now you saw the little bit of jaggery and flour that I used. Well, you need to put just that much every 1 week or so. Don't overdo it. A little bit will suffice. So every 1 week or so, just start introducing a little bit of flour and jaggery into your compost tea. The other thing is that every 1.5 or 2 months or so, you can replace the compost which is there inside. So you can, at that point of time, you would be taking out your socks and whatever is there inside. You could give it to your plants. You need not throw it, but it would be better that every 2 months or so you take in fresh compost, fresh vermicompost, put it into the socks and again put it back into your setup. Many people have this doubt that should we put only the compost or can we put other things like Jivamrutam or cow manure, buffalo manure or goat manure. Well, the point is that you are trying to increase the microbial life, and if you are getting things from diverse sources, it seems as if you are increasing the microbial the microorganisms which are there in that source and adding it into your compost tea. The point is that your compost, a good compost, especially your 18-day hot compost, is going to contain lots and lots of microbial life in a way where you really do not need to start putting in your manures and other stuff. So I would suggest that keep the setup simple. No need to add your Jivamritam or cow dung and stuff like that. If you want, you can put it, but put it in moderate quantities. Do not overdo it, because you are just going to create bad conditions in your compost tea setup. So keep it simple, it works. Another thing that people have a question is that how often do we need to use the compost tea? Well, I would suggest that you could use it every week or so, every 15 days or so. You can use it more frequently, but it doesn't serve much purpose. So, as I said, no need to overdo it. You can use it every week, every 15 days or so, but don't delay it more than that. Maybe the max that I would say is every 1 month. Now, most of your plants are going to live for 60 to 90 days. So if you are using your compost tea every month or so, you are looking at 3 applications of compost tea, which is good, which is pretty good. You could, as I said, make your frequency every 15 days or so. The other thing that you would need to keep in your mind is the application of compost tea. Now, compost tea, when you are applying it to your vegetables, when there are 2 types of things that you have in your garden. You have the vegetables and you have your green leafy vegetables, right? So for your green leafy vegetables, the leaves of which you are actually going to eat, I would suggest that you do not apply compost tea as a foliar spray. Apply the compost tea directly to the soil, but ensure that your compost tea is not actually falling onto the leaves. For the vegetables that you are growing, you could actually use the compost tea a bit liberally, and you could use it as a foliar spray as well. But there is another thing that you would need to keep in your mind, and that is that your cow dung could contain pathogens like Salmonella and E. coli, which if they go into the human body are not that great. So for the green leafy vegetables that you are going to consume, it is suggested that you don't put compost tea onto the leaves, because even if you are washing it thoroughly, you are eating it, right? So if you are by chance putting in some of your compost tea onto the leaf, clean it thoroughly, okay? That is one thing. The second thing is that if you are having things like aphids and mealybugs and stuff coming onto your plants, you could use your compost tea onto the plant itself, and at that point of time you would be giving it repeated dose. That is, every day for, let's say, a week, you are going to take your compost tea and use it as a foliar spray. In that case, don't delay it. Don't give it once a week or twice a week, because it won't have much effect on aphids or the mealybugs that are there on your plants. Give it repeatedly. So even in the small duration that I have been here, the compost tea already has started taking a nice effect. So if you can just come over, you can see how the bubbling action has changed a bit. And if you come closer, you can see that you are having this nice bubbles, nice froth actually. And if you start having a lot of froth, that means there is great microbial activity happening inside the compost tea. So this compost tea is going to get ready within the next 48 hours, and my plants are simply going to love it. I hope I have answered most of the doubts that were asked regarding compost tea, and if you still have more, I'll be answering them either through Facebook comments or through chat, or probably in the next video which will be coming up. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.